is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
Back at it on another Monday here on The Big Talker, 106.7 FM. Atop our perch here in downtown Wilmington. Great to be with you as always as we get the broadcast week underway. 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535 if you'd like to join the program. That's 910-299-7535. One of those mornings, of course, that, I wish I was able to just sleep in. Full transparency and openness, as always, here with your morning show host. As I jumped in the car, dark 30 on my way. It looked like some rain had passed through the area. There was lightning in the distance. And I quickly find out that, the morning broadcast will be a bit different, at least through the first little while. Hopefully to give you an update here shortly, given that I had to make the dreadful call to our engineer at dark 30 this morning to alert him that our radio tower had been knocked offline, likely due to the weather last night or early this morning. Which is why, of course, I constantly remind all the folks who tune in on a daily basis that there are various ways in which you can catch the broadcast each and every day. And today, that message proving valuable. So it'll be interesting to see, of course, how many folks notice that, of course, when they flip on the radio at 106.7 offline, engineer en route to the tower out towards Snow's Cut Bridge on the way to Carolina Beach to get an assessment on, the damage done or whether or not something maybe just tripped and you just have to reset it, flip a switch, and then we're back up and running. That is always the case. And I get into this weird situation where it's like 5:30 in the morning. You kind of don't want to make that phone call, of course, to the engineer. You're offline. And part of me says, let me just run out there and, wiggle some switches and hit some levers and see what happens. And another part of me says, if I touch something that I shouldn't, and, I don't really have the training or proper background to go out to a radio tower where there's high voltage lines everywhere, whether it be from what we do, our little operation, or the area that we share with, 911, the emergency lines, some of the bigger cell phone companies. And then I'm like, all right, maybe I shouldn't go out into the middle of the woods by myself at 5:30 in the morning to try and flip some switches and get us back online. Someone has to man the fort. And that's where we are here this morning, atop the Murkinson building, manning the fort, so to speak, as our engineer assesses the situation down at our radio tower, which, again, was likely knocked offline due to some of the weather that passed through the area last night, early this morning. Noticed that, and maybe that's why I was having such a hard time getting up this morning. It was the weather, and maybe, internally had this vibe going off that, this is going to be a headache sort of a Monday. I got to tell you, I don't know what was the rain, whether it was, I went to sleep at like 9 o'clock last night. I didn't even get a chance to watch Tom Brady's return to New England. I caught maybe like the first quarter and then was sound asleep. I said, hon, we got done with dinner and hung out for a little while. Hon, I'm going to go, let me go in the bedroom real quick. Yeah, went into the bedroom and slipped under the covers. That night, I'm sure I'll hear a little bit about that this morning after we get done with some of the work we've got on the horizon here, as a little later on this morning after we sign off for the day. We'll be pre-recording a conversation with Luke Waddell, a council candidate here in the city of Wilmington for city council. He, along with Cameron Moore with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association, will be pre-recording some stuff for later on in the week, in that we have a very busy week outside of our duties here, 7 until 10. My Coastal Carolina Chanticleers coming off another big win down in Conway over the weekend. Rolled over the Warhawks of Louisiana Monroe. Head coach Terry Bowden, the son of the late Bobby Bowden of Florida State lore. He's taken over down at Louisiana Monroe, and we stomped all over them. And they're a program that was struggling and looking to find themselves. And Coastal, of course, well, come in the latest college football polls, have us listed at number 15 in the country. 5-0 now. And we've got a short week. We've got a very interesting couple of weeks coming up in that short week this week, as after the show, I have to go to the local pharmacy and get a jab up the nose, a swab up the nose. Got to get a COVID test so I can fly with the team Wednesday afternoon. So Wednesday afternoon, after we wrap up what we do here each morning, it's down to Myrtle Beach. We get on the plane Wednesday, we fly into Memphis, and then Thursday we play football in Jonesboro, Arkansas, on a nationally televised game, ESPN2, as we'll take on the Arkansas State Red Wolves. And then that game, I think it kicks off 7:30 Eastern time Thursday night. So 10:30, 11, the game will over. We sign off the broadcast by around midnight. We jump on the plane, say 1:30 or 2. Back from Memphis to Wilmington, to Myrtle Beach, 2 to 4. And then we'll be riding right in with the sunrise on Friday morning, a Freedom Friday, to bring you the most listened to, entertaining, and informative news talk radio program Friday. The goal will be to be right back here atop the Murkinson building for another great day of news talk radio during the morning drive. So we're going to see. This is going to be an experiment later on this week. And why not? You only live once, right? YOLO. So I don't know. The weekend went way too fast, I guess. One of those mornings. I don't know if it was the rain overnight, the fact that the radio tower got us knocked offline. Well, I was ready to rock and roll. 9 o'clock, went to bed last night. But we've got the coffee brewing here this morning. So we're waiting on the engineer to give us an update on that. But the show must go on, as they say. We'll bring you an update as soon as I get word as to what the hell's going on over at the radio tower out towards Carolina Beach. But a busy last few days, no doubt, at the Catenacci household, and hopefully you were able to enjoy your weekend. We were just on the grind, as we have been throughout much of the fall, here late summer. My wife had 2 more weddings this weekend in the area. I'm glad that many people are continuing to celebrate and live life, despite some of the things you may hear from, well, the top doctor in our federal government. Don't know if you caught audio from his appearance on one of the Sunday morning talk shows yesterday, telling us that we don't know yet for sure if we're going to be able to get together with family and friends on Christmas. Guess he forgot to watch all of the different sporting events that were held over the weekend, where tens of thousands of people were gathered in close quarters for hours and hours on end to watch their favorite football team. But nonetheless, to New York, living in his own world, and here we are. So I'm very excited to continue to see people moving on with their lives, particularly here, well, to our benefit, meaning my wife and I, as my wife put out my wife had 2 more weddings over the weekend, dolling them up and making them feel and look good for their special day. Friday, Saturday, I was down in Conway for, again, another big Coastal game. listed at number 15 in the country. We've got this short week, so we've got some things to take care of on the front end of this week. Andrew Donaldson going to fill in for me on Thursday so I can enjoy a night in Memphis and then get ready to call the football game Thursday night. And also locally, we had some high school football coverage, and I always want to send my thanks over to our friends at WWAY. Their news director, Marcy Cuevas, and others who allow me the opportunity to rein in on their studio Friday night, along with Jake, their sports anchor, to cover high school football. We had another great show of the fifth quarter on WWAY Friday night. Tip of the cap goes out to the Hoggard football team. They are rolling, the top team in the conference after a big win over South Brunswick. Also want to give a shout out to West Brunswick High School. The Trojans have had their share of moments this season that could have taken it in a way in which you just kind of put your tail between your legs and your head down and you head off and say, all right, maybe next season. It all started, what was it, last spring when the team and the school down at West Brunswick lost one of their great players and kids attending that school after he drowned alongside his brother in the Intercoastal Waterway during a Mother's Day celebration down in Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle. Incredibly tragic situation. So they get kind of over that. And they had some struggles as far as on the field went early this year. They had a pause in team activities because of COVID. But now they're turning things around. They had a home game on Friday night and a shootout in Charlotte, and West Brunswick knocked off the Laney Buccaneers. And they are maybe moving onward and upward in what their goals were set out to be here early this year. It's always a lot of fun following high school football in the area. In fact, we had a game on Saturday morning here in Wilmington as the New Hanover High School Wildcats took on the Screaming Eagles of Ashley. That game went into overtime at Legion Stadium, and the Wildcats nipped the Eagles by one score as they try and stay alive within the Mid-Eastern Conference standings. So I know we're just veering off the side of the road here, getting prepared to embrace another week of chaos when we follow all things government-related, whether that be locally, statewide, or nationally. Of course, a Friday afternoon news dump like none other when we hear Speaker Pelosi express, well, not yet total defeat and demoralization, but not too often you see the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who supposedly yields all of this control in Washington, D.C. Not too often do you see her have to step in front of a camera and say, listen, we need more time. And that was the message to Americans out there back on Friday as Democrats failed to come together to push the Harris-Biden economic agenda on infrastructure and the $3.5 trillion Green New Deal, everything in the kitchen sink spending plan at the tune of $3.5 trillion. So they pump the brakes on that. They will need more time. And what does that say about the confidence the American people have, say, in the commander-in-chief, who held off from traveling late last week so we could go to Capitol Hill to try and convince certain lawmakers to move the agenda forward? And he was unable to make that convincing argument. In the House, folks on the left, the la-la land left, when it comes to the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes of the world and some of her girlfriends. AOC, in fact, was making a scene, as she does often, in front of the U.S. Capitol over the weekend with her masked friends as she spoke, maskless. And then on the other side in the Senate, of course, you have Joe Manchin, who has stood his ground. And now to see the pushback against, of course, Senator Kristen Sinema out of Arizona, well, the Looney Tunes were out in the Valley of the Sun over the weekend, in fact, harassing her to a point where they actually followed her into the restroom to continue to try and ostracize and twist her arm. Literally followed her into the John as they caught her somewhere in public. And what I just love was the fact that Senator Sinema just, paid just no sort of attention to the loonies who were circling around her. She goes into the can, does her business, flushes the toilet, comes back out, washes her hands, and exits stage left, owning the Looney Tunes out there in Arizona. Those were just some of the highlights from my weekend and the weekend across the news cycle. Hope, again, you enjoyed the last few days here in this beautiful area that we call home, or wherever you may be tuned in. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we've been dealing with some issues at our radio tower. I'm eagerly awaiting word from our good friend and engineer, Paul Knight, to see where we stand here in the next little while. He tuned in, he texted me, I want to say, about 45 minutes ago. I'm en route. So he's headed out to our radio tower out near Snow's Cut Bridge on Carolina Beach, and we'll get you an update on that as soon as possible. And once again, there is a method to the madness, although it may not seem as if that might be the case on some occasions here during this morning program. But this is why we try and beat the message into your head, so to speak, when it comes to all the different avenues in which you can tune into on a daily basis. 106.7 Off the Line. Well, you can grab us on YouTube and Facebook. You can tune into our website at bigtalkerfm.com. Tested all these different platforms today. They're up and running as we hope they are on a regular basis, but no doubt on a day like today, we want to make sure all the other avenues in which you can consume us are ready to rock and roll. So they are up and running on Facebook, YouTube, our website at bigtalkerfm.com. Also, well, through your handheld device, you can find us on the app, WFBT, the Big Talker FM, while navigating the Apple iStore for your iPhone, the iOS store, or the Google Play Store if you are like me and have an Android. We're 24 minutes past the hour. Great to be with you here this morning on this Monday as we get the morning program rocking and rolling here on the Big Talker FM.
All my friends know the low rider. The low rider is a little higher.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join us for Wake Up Our Faith, a real conversation about living out your faith between Sundays, streaming live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Catch the replay every Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Stop by and visit us on the web at uprint.life.
What got me into the recovery business is a result of drug addiction with one of my sons. Anyone that has had a similar experience knows the pain involved and the many sleepless nights, the shame, the guilt, and the anger. After spending about a year and a half at a local halfway house, my son and I decided to see if we could offer help to those suffering from addiction. A few years later, Prodigal Recovery opened its doors. We chose a name based on the familiar parable in the book of Luke. Part of the parable says, "My son was dead and is now alive. My son was lost and is now found." My son was dead, and he was revived. He was lost, and he is now found. Prodigal Recovery is a 12-bed home located about a half-mile west of the Cape Fear Hospital, right off of Wrightsville Avenue. It's a 7-bedroom home, large entertainment room with billiards and more, covered outdoor area, and a gym. We believe fun and entertainment are important, and so is structured living. We offer that as well. You can reach Prodigal Recovery at 338-3795 or visit prodigalrecovery.org.
Hear Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. for Objection to the Form, covering civil litigation, real estate issues, and intellectual property. That's Objection to the Form, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
All right, as we head towards our first news break of the day, Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY will bring you some of the local news here in just a few minutes. Jeff, in fact, will also join us a little later on in the program. Our affiliates over at WWAY, they're with us every Monday morning. Ray Nothstine will also be with us just after the top of the hour news break out at CarolinaJournal.com and the John Locke Foundation. Look forward to speaking with Ray here today. Coming off, his Ole Miss Rebels getting embarrassed by the Crimson Tide of Alabama over the weekend. Quickly, on some local news, as we highlighted last week with County Commissioner Rob Zappel, the New Hanover County Board of Commissioners will be meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon at the historic courthouse here in downtown Wilmington. Various ways in which you can tune in. Of course, you can attend it live at the courthouse, or you can pick up their live stream. They're also on YouTube, on Spectrum Channel 13. And one of the interesting nuggets that Commissioner Zappel made mention of last week was the fact that they will get their first update from the new group tasked with the responsibility of, the $1.2 billion endowment through the profits of the sale from New Hanover Regional Medical Center. This has been 8 months in the working here. The Community Endowment Fund created after the sale of the hospital. Again, the $1.2 billion in profits, and we'll see as far as what that update entails when the county commissioners get their first look at how this group is being assembled, what sort of bylaws are in place, and how they intend to move forward. We're talking about a massive amount of money that they'll be investing, quote unquote, into the community in the years to come. Of course, we're in the results business and interested to see what results come of this massive lump of cash that we're going to invest to continue to build interest on the money from the sale, along with, of course, pushing it into the community to hopefully have some very impactful results in the years to come. Time will tell. So that is locally this morning. The New Hanover County Board of Commissioners will be meeting this afternoon, 4 o'clock at the historic courthouse downtown. We have a New Hanover County Board of Education meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Also, beginning today up in Pender County, face masks are now optional in Pender County schools. This came after a vote by the Board of Education a few weeks back. Starting this morning, October 4th, students and teachers in Pender County can choose whether to wear masks in the classroom. Face coverings are still required on school buses en route to the schoolhouse. And speaking of mask guidance and policy, it's been interesting, of course, through the last 19 months as to why here in the U.S. We either ignore, deflect anytime there's guidance elsewhere around the world that may have some impact or may provide some sort of well-rounded approach towards how we've been dealing with this pandemic. It's sort of been, listen to Fauci and then listen to the politicians who are taking the guidance from Fauci. And that's been pretty much the guidance that we've received. Stand in the corner. We know what's best for you. And don't bring up or present any questions that we need to answer because we don't want to necessarily go into it too deep. Why, when studies are brought up elsewhere or research is brought up from this group, why it's ignored or then, of course, censored on certain social media sites or elsewhere. And when you look at mask guidance and mandates that are in place here in the U.S., as compared to the European Union, what we see over in the UK and elsewhere around the world, the United States right now has some of the most strict mask guidance for kids as compared to anywhere on God's green earth at this point, 19 months in to the BS COVID-19 Chinese Communist virus pandemic. The World Health Organization, the EU, the UK, all have much different viewpoints when it comes to the muzzles on our kids, yet we continue to put our kids behind a mask. We've hit the bottom of the hour, and now, we have a bit of a study that we can hold on to locally. At least one local school district has decided to go mask optional, and that policy begins today in Pender County. We've hit the bottom of the hour. If you'd like to call in, 910-299-7535.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. She's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. Crews on the water and on shore are working to limit environmental damage from one of the largest oil spills in recent California history. An underwater Southern California pipeline started leaking oil late Friday or early Saturday. The pipeline is owned by Amplify Energy. At least 126,000 gallons of oil spilled into the waters off Orange County. Facebook prematurely turned off safeguards designed to prevent misinformation and rabble-rousing after Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump in last year's elections in a money-making move that a company whistleblower alleges contributed to the deadly January 6 invasion of the U.S. Capitol. The whistleblower, former Facebook product manager Frances Haugen, also claimed during an exclusive interview last night on CBS's 60 Minutes that a 2018 change to Facebook's news feeds contributed to more divisiveness and ill will. Facebook says Haugen's allegations are misleading. Local municipal elections are just under a month away. Starting today, the Brunswick County Board of Elections will begin logic and accuracy tests on its voting systems. The testing ensures each voting system will correctly count and tabulate each ballot cast. The test checks the voting system's ability to read each ballot style and the accuracy of the tabulator when counting votes. Municipal elections will be held November 2nd. And the results are in for the 43rd annual U.S. Open King Mackerel Tournament held this weekend in Southport. The winning mackerel weighed in at 45 pounds and was caught by Captain Cameron Yo and his crew on their boat, Bear Necessities, from Kannapolis. They won more than $58,000. In second place was Team Low Crazy, led by Captain Seth Williams of Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. They brought in a king mackerel weighing more than 44 pounds and won a combined total of nearly $134,000 based on additional categories they entered. More than 500 boats took part this year. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. for Objection to the Form, covering civil litigation, real estate issues, and intellectual property. That's Objection to the Form, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, as we go throughout this week, we are going to be expecting some changes compared to last week. But as for today, we are going to see mostly cloudy skies to start the day off. A mixture of sunshine and clouds in store for us later this afternoon, with temperatures getting into the low to middle 80s. Inland of the coast and closer to the coast will top off in the upper 70s and the lower 80s, with a small chance for an isolated shower or two to develop over the course of the afternoon hours. Tonight, we drop down to the middle and the upper 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. Twomenandatruck.com.
All right, looks like we had some weather move through the area yesterday. It was dumping a bit as I rolled out of the house this morning at dark 30, and then to see the lightning and quickly realized that this morning was going to be a big headache, and in fact, it's played out as such over the last 90 minutes or so since making the dreadful phone call to our engineer, as he is now assessing some of the issues that we've got over at our radio tower today, out towards Snows Cut Bridge on the way to Carolina Beach. So which is why you're not hearing us today across the Cape Fear at 106.7 FM. So as that gets all sorted out, of course, this is the main reason why I encourage you to go to the various streams in which you can tune in each and every day, not just through the radio at 106.7 FM, but through our Facebook and YouTube channels, of course, on our website at bigtalkerfm.com, and then our mobile app right through your phone. So even if you're not necessarily able to listen through the radio, well, you can have your mobile device locked in with the app while you're driving and still get, well, the same news, the same content, and the same opinions that you would hear over the airwaves at 106.7 as you would typically on a weekday morning. So we encourage you, as always, to download and put us on the tab of favorites, of course, whether it be bigtalkerfm.com, our website, or the many different ways in which you can listen each and every day. We'll try and provide you an update, or what will likely happen, hopefully, we keep our fingers crossed, is that the engineer goes over there, sees that something tripped due to maybe a power outage, and they reboot, and then we jump on the air. So that is the hope, and that there are no internal sort of pieces of equipment that got fried in this latest lightning strike, which I'm going to chalk this one up to as to why some of our systems have failed here this morning. Rough situation out in Fayetteville over the weekend, and thinking about the kids and staff and others who work and learn at 71st High School. They're dealing with extra security measures this morning following a shooting after their football game on Friday night. 2 people were shot and wounded following their football game Friday night at 71st High School in Fayetteville. So thinking about all the folks that are having to go through a very similar situation as did those who attend and work at New Hanover High School here locally not too long ago. Stupid, stupid people shooting each other outside of a high school football game. Of course, school security and safety, whether on the grounds during the day or outside at extracurricular events, has been a topic of discussion here locally over the last several weeks following the incident over on Market Street at the high school. We have all these people who have come together to talk about community violence and school violence. The county commission has opened up the coffers at the tune of $350 million to try and figure out this situation, only to find out that, of course, there were audits and other sort of reviews that have taken place recently as the year 2019, yet nothing has sort of come from those audits and reviews. You have to ask yourself what the purpose is if you're going to hold these sorts of studies and analysis and then never look into it or implement or work on any of the soft spots that these reviews may show us. And on a sort of completely off topic and additional issue that we often discuss, the way in which the governor and others here in North Carolina for years have been calling for an expansion to Medicaid in our state. Yet the fact of the matter is we have someone who is given the responsibility within the state government to review the many different happenings within government. And every time there's an audit of this, that, or the other, we find many issues within certain systems, yet there are continuous calls by our politicians to just expand and throw more money at it rather than identify the problems, work on policies that could, in fact, help instill change within the broken system, and then maybe assign a dollar tab to it when it comes to how much money will need to be invested. Instead, we put money out there and then say, all right, let's come up with the policy. And we're seeing this at all levels of government right now. Locally, the county commission opened the coffers, and not to say that all this money is going to be used, as Commissioner Deb Hayes cautioned to us a few weeks back. Listen, we opened up this money. That does not mean we're going to use all of it or any of it. But it's good to have those sorts of resources. Okay, we can agree with that. But how about we develop the policies and we figure out how we're going to implement those policies and then assign a dollar amount to it. Let's develop the ideas first and then get into the financials. We see that, well, at the state level, as we just highlighted. This backwards way of legislating. Let's expand and throw more money at the issue, and then we'll figure out, all the other problems that have been identified on prior occasions. When we talk, Medicaid expansion. We talk the Department of Transportation here in North Carolina. And then at the federal level, obviously, you see it on display with the most recent discussions being had over infrastructure and the massive $3.5 trillion bill that for now is going nowhere. Speaking of school security and the incident that occurred out in Fayetteville over the weekend, another shooting, 2 people shot, wounded outside the high school football game at 71st. Well, towards the end of the week, last week, we were starting to get some word on an incident that occurred on one of the school buses bringing kids from school at Noble. Apparently, New Hanover County Schools released a statement Thursday afternoon regarding an altercation that broke out on a Noble middle school bus back on Thursday afternoon. The fight caused the bus driver to pull the vehicle over and call 911. Thankfully, no one was injured. There are some things circulating on Facebook surrounding some video that was highlighted of concerned parents trying to get a handle on the situation. Basically, the bus driver pulled the bus over. Deputies from the sheriff's office quickly responded. You had parents kind of waiting on the corner for their kids to arrive on the school bus. One parent boarded the bus to retrieve their child. Others used the back emergency exit to get away from the fight. All hell breaking loose on one of the school buses coming back from Noble Middle School on Thursday. So, of course, our New Hanover County Board of Education will meet tomorrow. We'll see if this is part of this broader conversation we're having around quote-unquote school safety. Oh, I can hear a little sizzle in the backdrop because I've got our transistor radio pulled up this morning to see if we come back online anytime soon. Again, our engineer headed out to the site about an hour ago to try and analyze the situation and get us back up and running over 106.7 FM. Our phone line is open here in the studio at 910-299-7535. We've got, of course, various ways in which you can tune in each day through the mobile app. When you look on your phone, you've got different apps, and one will say Google Play if you are an Android user. The other is an iOS Apple app. It's where you go to upload the different applications that you have on your phone. Well, we have one as well where you can get the audio version of our show through your handheld device. If you're at home, BigTalkerFM.com or the office, or through Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe to our channels and get the video edition of the show each and every morning. We're 13 minutes in front of the hour. Our friend Ray Nothstine going to join us just after 8 o'clock this morning. Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News to provide us a local update to round out the program. And we'll also hear from the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council in this second hour when economist Ray Keating joins us to talk about, the inner workings of the two pieces of legislation that are now on hold in Washington in terms of the infrastructure and the everything along with the kitchen sink proposal that's been put out there at the tune of $3.5 trillion. A lot of talk about taxing the wealthy, of course, a tired old idea that's put out by the left to try and continue to stir this divide when it comes to the different economic classes of people in our society. Let's make the rich pay their fair share, of course, is the common theme. When we talk about the different sorts of tax increases that are embedded in this proposal that have not yet been discussed and how those proposals would, in fact, influence you just as much as the wealthy, well, then they try and steer the conversation elsewhere to distract you. Well, today we'll talk with Ray Keating. He's the chief economist for the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council on some of these proposals that have been laid out, including higher taxes on capital gains. And Ray's group has studied these proposed tax increases and how, in their eyes, it would be more destructive and less beneficial for the economy and the American people. We'll talk with Ray Keating and Ray Nothstine a little later on in the show here on the Big Talker FM. Quick timeout. I see the engineer buzzing my phone right now. We'll get you an update when we get back. Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE-certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man. Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at KO's Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
As Wilmington's leader in restorative and regenerative medicine, the Frank Institute specializes in health optimization. Simply put, we use in-depth evaluations and lab testing to determine the best treatments for each patient. So whether you're suffering from an unseen hormonal imbalance or a simple vitamin deficiency, the Frank Institute is ready to get you back to better living. Call us at 910-679-8534 or fill out our symptom survey online at frankinstitute.com. Because at the Frank Institute, you live, we help.
Tune in on Friday mornings to hear The Construction Connection, a collaborative effort between Joe Catenacci with the Big Talker FM and Cameron Moore, the executive officer of the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association. You start the conversation and we bring you the answers as we take a regional, in-depth look at growth-related topics and issues centered around the residential and commercial development and building industry. The Construction Connection, Friday mornings on the Big Talker FM.
Take control of your money. Start by listening to The Dave Ramsey Show.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these banks taking advantage of you guys. They hold it out there and they make it difficult for you to live without a credit card so they can charge you 22%. Not me. I'm not going to allow them in my life. I'm not going to loan you my money at 1% and borrow my money back at 22% and get airline miles and call myself smart. I'm not that dumb.
Catch The Dave Ramsey Show from noon to 3 p.m. on 106.7 FM.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gabe Frank of the Frank Institute, and I wanted to tell you about our IV vitamin, infusion, and hydration therapies. These IVs are the most effective treatment for vitamin and nutrition deficiencies available, and with our wide range of offering, your treatment can be tailored to your specific needs. Whether you struggle with hydration or nutritional deficiency, injury recovery, low energy, please feel free to check out our IV infusions today. Schedule an appointment at 910-679-8534 or check out all our treatment services at www.frankinstitute.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
This is Radio Free Dixie, and I'm Mark Allen. We often hear people complain about fake news, but fake history is just as bad. The impression that many people have about the Old South is the result of fake history. For example, Have you ever wondered why it was okay for 13 American colonies to secede from England, but wrong for 13 Confederate states to secede from the United States? The truth is that both groups had a God-given right to secede and plenty of good reasons for it. If your ancestors fought for Dixie, hold your head high and defend truth and honor. That's what real men do. Join the Confederate Legion, sponsored by the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Go to MakeDixieGreatAgain.com. That's MakeDixieGreatAgain.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Here's 1 minute of tree knowledge in 30 seconds with K.O. Davis.
It's important that you have somebody, a trained professional, to trim your trees. There are these guys out there that just hack trees, and that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. Don't let somebody hat rack your trees. That's a tree term for hat rack. You know how they just cut a tree and it looks like it's just got like a hat rack? These guys just go up and just cut the trees off, and they don't cut it back to the proper spot. Call us, because we care about your trees.
Visit KO's coasttocoasttree.com.
Don't let some yahoo hat rack your trees.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Tune in on Friday mornings to hear The Construction Connection, a collaborative effort between Joe Catenacci with the Big Talker FM and Cameron Moore, the executive officer of the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association. You start the conversation and we bring you the answers as we take a regional, in-depth look at growth-related topics and issues centered around the residential and commercial development and building industry. The Construction Connection, Friday mornings on the Big Talker FM.
Some may ask, wasn't the war between the states really a civil war? Webster defines civil war as a war between different sections or factions of the same nation, which is not what occurred from 1861 to 1865, since North and South were two separate nations. Before the conflict began, Southern states legally developed and passed ordinances of secession to lead the United States and later legally affiliated themselves to form a new nation. Southern states had no desire to take over the existing central government by force or any other means. Instead, Southern states first withdrew from the United States, leaving that government entirely intact, and then formed their own confederation, an approach similar to one taken by American patriots 90 years earlier, but with far stronger legal justification than the revolution celebrated by many who condemn Southern secession. This message is brought to you by the North Carolina Division of Sons of Confederate Veterans, who encourage you to learn more about your Southern heritage.
Keeping Oak Island informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason.
This is deadline day for employees of the nation's largest public school district.
The COVID vaccine mandate takes effect today for New York City public school teachers and staff. It's one of the first school district mandates in the country requiring employees to be vaccinated against the coronavirus.
Correspondent Julie Walker in New York says thousands of unvaccinated teachers being placed on unpaid leave. Congressional Democrats remain divided over the massive $3.5 trillion spending bill, negotiations ongoing between left-leaning Democrats and those on the far left. Republicans, meanwhile, standing firm in opposition to the spending spree and the taxes required to pay for it. Abortion, guns, and religion among the issues to be argued in the Supreme Court's new term, which begins today.
It's shaping up to be a consequential term for the 9 Supreme Court justices. The future of abortion rights will be in the hands of a conservative high court. In December, justices will hear arguments in Mississippi's pro-life law that bans most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Also on the docket, a religious rights case from Maine in the area of education, and a challenge to New York's gun restrictions. Greg Clugston, Washington.
ISIS is suspected in Sunday's deadly attack outside a mosque in Kabul, Afghanistan. At least 5 civilians killed. Russia's military says it has successfully tested a hypersonic missile, test firing it from a nuclear submarine for the first time. Upping tensions in the South China Sea, Communist China, it has flown dozens of military aircraft near Taiwan's airspace. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures in the red. Right now, Dow futures down 127 points. NASDAQ futures 84 points lower. S&P futures down 20 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated, price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For a free quote, call 800-523-3771. That's 800-523-3771. 800-523-3771. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Dozens of Greenpeace activists are blockading the entrance of a Shell oil refinery in Rotterdam, demanding an end of fossil fuel advertising, using some advertising of their own to do so.
9 protesters scaled an oil tank and attached the adverts to block access to the port. Another group stuck the ads to floating cubes, while others used kayaks and inflatables to hoist banners inviting people to join the fossil-free revolution. Greenpeace accused the oil giant of greenwashing, using adverts to clean its image. Shell intends to cut emissions to net zero by 2050. If a European citizens' initiative collects at least 1 million signatures within a year, the European Commission is obliged to respond.
That's the BBC's Anna Holligan. North Korea has restored dormant communications hotlines with South Korea. News and analysis at townhall.com. New car and truck sales in the U.S. stalled last month.
It happened as the global shortage of computer chips worsened, shuttering factories and limiting the selection on dealer lots. Edmunds.com says automakers sold just over 1 million new vehicles last month. General Motors said its third quarter sales were off nearly 33% from last year. Nissan was down 10%, Honda fell 11%. At Toyota, sales were off 22% for September, but just over 1% in the third quarter. John Scott reporting.
2 U.S.-based scientists have been awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine for their discovery of the receptors allowing humans to feel temperature and touch. This will be a busy week for Nobel Prize awards, and on Friday, they will award the Nobel Peace Prize. Once again on Wall Street this hour, stock futures are lower. Dow futures down 137 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
All right, back and ready to rock and roll here for the second hour. Wherever you may be tuned in, of course, there was a bit of a delay here from the last segment until the news break as I was working with our engineer to make sure everything internally was internally was on the up and up as he works on things over at our tower site on the way to Carolina Beach near Snows Cut Bridge, and we'll try and provide you an update as soon as that becomes available as far as, the tower. And last night we had some weather. Early this morning, maybe a lightning strike, maybe a failure of equipment, and this happens time to time. Small, independently owned and operated business, all these sorts of things. And I had a feeling this morning as I awoke at dark 30 that something was going to be off just a bit today, because rarely am I the person that wants to stay in bed. Usually my eyes open, feet on the floor is the first thought that comes through my brain anytime I open my eyes while sleeping, particularly after a good deep sleep last night. It was around 9 o'clock that I zonked out. And due part to the fact that, you had a New York Giants football win over the New Orleans Saints. The New York Yankees are able to secure a spot in the wild card against the Red Sox tomorrow. And then accompanied with some of my New York sports teams that have stunk it up for, the better part of my lifetime, particularly when we talk about the New York football Giants. The Yankees, of course, had the run in the late 90s. They get a win in the World Series in 2009. But for all intents and purposes, it's been tough watching, the teams that I've grown up on for pretty much my entire life. So rarely you're going to go through an entire Sunday where you get back-to-back wins, mix in with the fact that little Sophia had her fourth birthday of the week. You heard that correctly. Her fourth birthday yesterday at my wife's friend's salon. They had a spa day. My 4-year-old and her friends, they had a spa day at the salon. So there were sets of 12-ounce curls being worked out on my house and a neighbor's throughout much of the day yesterday. So that could have been partially the reason why I went to bed at 9 o'clock. And secondly, why my first thought this morning was not feet on the floor. It was, what's going wrong? What happened? It rained last night. It's lightning out this morning. And then what do you know? It must have been the vibes that I was feeling. What do you know? The radio tower has gone haywire this morning, which is why I'm in such a peachy mood as we get the broadcast week underway. So without further ado, let's see if Ray Nothstine can, enlighten the conversation enough to ease some of my, hangry, frustrated state that I'm in right now at 10 minutes past 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. Ray, it's a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice. A lot of times I fan the flames, Joe. I don't really, I'm not somebody who enlightens, but I tend to fan the flames or, just make things worse,
Well, please do your best today, because I've got pieces of equipment that are hanging from the side of the desk. I've got all sorts of knobs and other sorts of things that I'm pushing, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And this is maybe why I need to get into the engineering school of this sort of business. Maybe there's some opportunities out there that I don't necessarily have as show host that could play into what we do day to day here.
No doubt. you have a lot. I was cracking up, Joe, when you were like trying to do the pity party thing about being a Yankees fan. That was pretty amusing. The richest, most successful franchise in professional sports history. That was good. That was a good. That was a good maneuver there.
Well, it's been since 2009, Ray, since we won a World Series. Now, if Alex Rodriguez decided to hit in the postseason, more times than just once in his entire career as a Yankee, we'd have more World Series titles. But because he was unable to come through in the clutch, this is why it's been so long since.
Well, that's true, and he's not really a true Yankee in my mind.
Of course not.
So.
But boy, does that guy want to be loved. I mean, he just bought a stake in the Minnesota Timberwolves, the NBA franchise. I think last week he does the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast on ESPN. I think last Sunday with the Red Sox, you had Big Papi there, and he was just brown nosing Big Papi the entire time. The guy just wants to be loved by the people, and he just can never seem to win over the good graces of baseball fans. You have to wonder why.
And if you follow celebrity news, he's kind of in the, he's still sulking a little bit over J-Lo. So, that's.
Well, I'd be sulking over J-Lo too if she left if she left me. I mean, holy moly, what, you 55 years old, looking that good? Are we allowed to say this kind of stuff on the radio? Oh, we're not on the radio just yet this morning.
I think I'm already on record kind of being more on Shakira's team.
Well, from the Super Bowl halftime, I remember that. Remember those days, Ray, when the economy was rolling, there were no supply chain issues, people were working, making money, there was onward and upward mobility, and the talk of the day following a Super Sunday was Shakira and J-Lo shaking their booties. Remember that went on for like a week. Those were the days, Ray, when we could think about.
Those were good times. That was pre Sophia at the spa too.
Yeah, that was pre Sophia at the spa. A 4-year-old getting a spa day with 8 of her friends, Ray. This is why there were multiple sets of 12-ounce curls at my house yesterday, and why I went to sleep at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's not a girl thing anymore because we've got our 2-year-old's turning 3 at the end of the month, and I'm already seeing like the invite list, the bouncy castle, just some of the stuff that's going to be on our property for this party. And my wife's going a little bit crazy. She loves her baby, so is it's not just a girl thing anymore.
Is it a bouncy house or is it a bouncy house with the water slide? I mean,
I think it has. I don't know if it's a water one because it's late October.
Okay, right.
But I do know that there's a slide and there's going to be various other type of, there's talk of pony rides and all kinds of, just different various things.
4-year-old spa day, Ray. They're getting made up and pampered, and here I am drinking like light beer at my house, just trying to get through the day.
As long as you have beer, I totally understand that.
I was going for quantity over quality yesterday, given that I had 2 wins in my sports teams, along with Coastal Carolina. And then the spa day for the 4-year-old, I said, boy, I'm putting one on Sunday. And that's exactly what I did, admittedly, here this morning.
It happens. I started drinking early because Ole Miss went off the rails against Alabama this weekend. So, it happens. And but I'm excited to be on your show. What do you want to talk about, Joe?
Ray, well, I was engaging in the 4-year-old birthday party nonsense. But, I want to know what's going on with the constitutional amendment that voters approved back in 2018 related to voter ID. It's now getting tied up in the courts, and so there's some drama there with 2 of the conservative judges and others within the state Supreme Court that want to pull those judges off the hearing. I can't get all of the drama that's playing out in our state's highest court. Can you give us some of the details on what's transpired over the last week or so?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big lawsuit, right, where the NAACP is trying to silence 2 conservative judges, Phil Berger Jr., who's the son. That's one of the reasons that they're suing, is they say he can't be impartial because his dad is the Senate leader in the Senate, Phil Berger Sr., of course, and you have Tamara Behringer, who is the other conservative justice on the court, and she voted for voter ID. So they're trying to, of course, silence her voice. And isn't this the kind of the view of the left now? We disagree with somebody, and if we're going to find a way that we can silence them, we can silence them. it's really unfortunate. And I think here's kind of the crux of the issue, right? I mean, what we're doing is eroding the voters' intent. We've already done that with voter ID. We passed the constitutional amendment, of course. Now we have various groups in North Carolina suing to stop voter ID. By the way, a majority of states have voter ID. Even southern states that were once excluded from having voter ID, pretty much all virtually have it now. And why does North Carolina have to be any different? I think that's the great question here. Why are we more racist than Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, these other states, of course? But the crux of the issue is, why are we silencing the votes of tens of millions or millions of North Carolinians across the state who voted for these justices, who voted for the legislature, who voted for voter ID? I mean, why are we silencing these voices? And I think that's really just the crux of the issue. And, you know, there's no evidence that racism comes to play in this. I mean, here's the thing that has been proven. You and I talked about this before, but over and over again, when there is voter ID implemented in the state, Joe, black voter participation increases in that state. It's been shown time and time again. This whole demeaning attitude that we treat people that someone's a minority, that they can't get an ID, is absurd. It's ridiculous. People know this. The politics is getting old. It's getting tiresome. And it shows you this element of the left that doesn't want the vote. They don't like democracy. They don't like the winner winning when it comes to an election. They just would rather throw that out. Ridiculous.
Right, and in this broader conversation we're having about different voting laws, particularly, you look at Georgia and all the pushback that the state of Georgia received when they moved forward with new voting laws, the state of Texas, most recently. Why is it that we examine some of these states, but rarely take a look at what other states, including states in which some of these Democrats who are against in opposition to the different voting amendments and changes that are being made in the states that we just mentioned, but never taking a look at what in fact their states have as far as early voting goes, as far as different sort of identification requirements, because we often find out when you do an apples to apples comparison that when we talk about the inability to expand the vote when it comes to early voting or absentee, this, that, or the other, that often is the case that many of these states have much you would maybe label them as more stricter sort of ways in which they implement voter laws as compared to ones that are making amendments to them right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of like the funny thing what happened down in Georgia when they tried to rein in some of this voting chaos, right, where you had just ballot harvesting, you had people just wanting more mail-in voting, and some people, and then you had the legislature, which is their right to do, try to rein in some of the voting, and of course Major League Baseball threw their hissy fit and moved the All-Star game to Colorado, but come to find out that Colorado had stricter voting requirements than most southern states, and Georgia in particular. And so we've seen this kind of hypocrisy, which is all about power, right? We know it's all about power, about certain people getting power and being able to hold on to power. That's why what we were doing, I think, in many respects, Joe, is if you turn elections into something that becomes managed more so by political parties, by entities other than the people, by say, I'm all for absentee voting for people who can't get there, but I think most states would be wise to go to a one-day, one-vote model. Certainly you want people who are serving in the military, people who are invalid or who can't get out, or people who, there's certain requirements that they have an absentee vote, they meet certain criteria. That's totally fine. But I think it's better for the system if you have a little bit more of a one-day, one-vote model, in my opinion. That's not the opinion of any organization. That's not the opinion of any party in this state, but that's my opinion, because I think what it does is it gives more power to the people, and it becomes, what happens is the election becomes less managed by political parties, less managed by special interests, less managed by groups like the NAACP or another special interest, and it focuses more on a system that isn't, I don't want to use the word rigged because that might be a strong word, but isn't micromanaged to some extent where, well, we got to get these so many people out in this area, we got to do this and that. and it just becomes a little bit more organic. And so I think that reflects the change of power and a democratic spirit more. And I think these groups that just want to expand voting more and more until it basically becomes managed by political machines. And that's kind of my view on the situation. And I think there are a lot of people who see that too as well. I mean, it's nice to have convenience to go and vote on Saturdays, but when you expand it so much, it almost becomes this ridiculous system that's managed by the political machines.
Well, and to make these ridiculous claims that having 3 weeks of early voting and having a requirement that say the absentee ballots show up on time, like you said, if you're gonna the way this is working out is that we're expanding this in so many different ways, and then it's like, well, even if you put any sort of sort of timeline or any sort of, all right, this is the benchmark. You need to have this stuff in by election day and, no further with 3 weeks of early voting and multiple months of, getting your absentee ballot and then getting it into the mail and personally turning it over to your local board of elections, that this is, too strict of an issue. It seems as if it's kind of, the way in which the world turns these days, Ray. You take a little bit away or you give a little bit more, and then it just becomes commonplace. And then until the next time when they try and take another big bite out of the apple to take it further down the line, it never reverts back when it comes to the ways in which we expand things, particularly when it comes to government and anything related to government.
That's a great point. And see, that's kind of the crisis we have with some of these elections now, where we don't know who won the night of the election, right? And so now it becomes we already have a problem in North Carolina with judicial activism. The voters vote one way, but then, what was the voter intent? What is the, well, they voted that way, but that's not what we want. So we're going to change that. We're going to sue against that constitutional amendment, even though it's all on the up and up and passed easily. And I think you see that a little bit with elections too. So we don't know who won. If you have a little bit more of a one day, one vote model, well, I can tell you by 9, 10 o'clock who won pretty easily. But if it's not, you're counting ballots for weeks and, well, we've got to accept ballots a week till after the election, then you have a much wider path for shenanigans, for foul play to occur, to harvest ballots like you have in many states. California's kind of perfected that model. And ballot harvesting. And so if you have a situation like that, well, we're down 10,000 votes. We're going to have to go out and sue to find, 12,000 more ballots or votes for our candidate. And so what it does is, again, do you trust these people that have done everything, whether it be with this pandemic, whether it's been with all these other issues that we've had with shutting down businesses, making people comply with mandates? Do you want them to have more and more control over elections, to have more say in the way that the votes are tabulated, the way that votes are managed and manufactured to some extent? I'd say no, but there's a lot of people out there, unfortunately, who, want to make it in a way that voting is manufactured, and it's more of an event to kind of manipulate than to allow for people's voices to speak. You have a vote, you kind of know the results by 9, 10 o'clock, and it's over.
And then ultimately, of course, no matter which candidate wins, the other side is going to feel disenfranchised and lack confidence in the system because, one, they may be sore losers, but also all the other things you just laid out there as far as not necessarily instilling the most confidence, in this process because of how far we've gone out the fray of, election day and maybe a day or two or a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks in the case of North Carolina that you have an opportunity to go cast a ballot for, candidates that, you want to see representing you in the government. It's just amazing. And the tired old argument that 3 weeks isn't enough time to make sure you get a ballot in, or if you have an absentee ballot to get it in, by election day, is just sort of ridiculous, and it's amazing that any of these sorts of conversations, have any sort of substance to them. I just don't know how any person with just a little gray matter in between their ears can look at this situation, take the partisan politics out of it, and say, these people are a little screwy in the way they look at things based on the explanations they give surrounding voting and the electoral process.
Right. I think a lot of the intent we see in North Carolina politics, this is evident to me, whether you like some of the people in the legislature or not, almost everything revolves around diminishing their influence. But we all know, because, you and I have taken civics, and most of our listeners, probably all of the people that listen to you, have a very deep understanding of civics. But there's a lot of folks out there that don't understand everything that's going on in the state, and everything really revolves around diminishing the influence of your legislature. And your legislature, whether you like him or her or not, they are the people that are closest to the people. They're supposed to be the ones making much of the policy in the state. They're supposed to have the greatest influence in the state. North Carolina has a little bit weaker governor model, which I think is good to the extent, no matter who's in the governor's office, because, again, the design is for legislatures to be closest to the people. They are the ones that are supposed to drive policy in the state. They're the ones that are supposed to be making some of the big decisions. And when you have all these lawsuits and all of these ways to engineer taking away their power, and whether it's giving it to the governor or making the judges more and more powerful, that they essentially become the legislatures, then the balance of power gets all out of whack. And what you have is tyranny. That's essentially what you have, is a tyrannical system, because the legislature is supposed to be the people that you have the most way to impact by firing them, because they are elected every 2 years, and to get rid of them and to change the balance of power in our state. And that's the way North Carolina has run. And there's been times where that hasn't always been great, but that's the system that we're under. And I think it's really the best model, because it's most responsive to the people. And when you erode that, when you have lawsuits, and again, when you're trying to manufacture outcomes to diminish that impact, I think it's bad for the people. It's bad for North Carolina. And I hope more and more people see that. I mean, almost everything that's controversial in this state revolves around removing power from the legislature, which should be a slap on your face to say, we don't really trust you voters. You guys, we just don't really trust who you're sending up here. We don't really trust what you have to say. We're a little bit more enlightened than you are. I mean, I know that you guys like to vote and put your people in office, but we're just a little bit more enlightened. We're a little bit closer to the power structure. We know what's best for you, Joe. So we're just going to diminish their power some. We're going to use activist judges. We're going to use courts. We're going to try to give more power to this governor, because he knows what's better for you.
Ray Nothstine with us at CarolinaJournal.com and the John Locke Foundation. We got into this conversation with a story at the top focused on, a fight going on right now within our state's highest court, some drama within the North Carolina State Supreme Court, as there are some on the court. Right now it has a 4-3 advantage, leaning towards more progressive judges. And from that, we've got, of course, efforts being made in terms of this voter ID constitutional amendment in case that is now on the docket for the state Supreme Court. You have justices looking to remove two Supreme Court conservative-leaning justices from this case. It's now gone public. CarolinaJournal.com has a full story on it if you want to learn more about all the drama that's playing out. Drama that should not be included in the, you got plenty of drama on the political side of things, Ray. When we comes to the judicial system, this should be drama-free, right? At least that's the way it needs to be. If you look at, this branch of government that, oversees, the many workings of the other two branches of government.
Right. And look, I mean, there's no reason for these conservative justices to recuse themselves. There's no reason why they can't be impartial. They've been judges for a while now. They understand how being a judge works in this state. So to me, I mean, it's just a clear power grab, right? I mean, you've got the NAACP and other groups here suing just because they want to diminish the power of conservatives. They're nervous. They know that the law, if you read the law, that it's not really on their side. So let's try to, again, manipulate this outcome. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we have this kind of politics in the state, but it does remind us again, I mean, why these judge races are they're so essential to North Carolina. I mean, do you want judges that are going to legislate from the bench, going to tell you how to live, how to think, or are going to be more reflective of interpreters of the law and allow the balance of powers to remain in a way that I think reflects the will of the people. I mean, that's the big issue. One of the big issues in North Carolina since I moved here years and years ago is, what direction do you want your judges to go? Do you want them to be somebody who upholds the law and doesn't interpret it in a way that allows for more activism from the bench that erodes the separation of powers and basically mandates more how in the way that you live your life? So big issues, Joe. Big issues when it comes to electing courts. And I think it's good that the people do elect judges, because I know there's been a lot of debate around that in this state and just in general in the United States. I think it's good that people elect judges because they become informed. And I think it's important that that there's different judicial philosophies out there, because sometimes the American Bar Association, who wants judges to be selected, say they're nonpartisan, but they have their own agenda as well. So I'd rather leave it up to the people when it comes to my freedoms.
Ray Nothstine with CarolinaJournal.com and the John Locke Foundation. This is just one of the many issues, or at least storylines, coming out of Raleigh over the past week. The state budget continues to get hashed out. We're one of the only states that do not have a fiscal plan in place for the year, which is already underway, meaning the fiscal year. So keeping an eye on that. Of course, a lot of drama to be played out between the governor and the two Republican leaders in the state House and the state Senate. And a few other things, obviously, still being hashed out as the legislative session continues within the North Carolina General Assembly. CarolinaJournal.com does a great job, of course, of following all the news coming out of our capital city in Raleigh. Ray, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for the extended time this morning.
I appreciate it, Joe. Thank you so much.
Great to have Ray Nothstine with us today and each and every Monday here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM. We've hit the bottom of the hour. If you want to jump in, our call-in number is 910-299-7535. I got a little note which provides some relief, at least to me, knowing that internally, meaning our equipment over at the radio tower and internally here within the station are on the up and up. No issues with us at the radio tower or within the office here on our perch inside the Murchison building. Of note that I just got from our engineer, it appears that a Spectrum fiber cable has been cut near Holly Ridge, which feeds the tower where our radio station transmitter is located out towards Carolina Beach. There's no estimate on repair time. They'll text us with an update. Our equipment is good. We just can't get audio to our equipment, which is why you can't hear us out on 106.7 FM this morning, which, of course, is why we guide you when these things happen every so often. We guide you to the many different ways in which you can tune in each day at BigTalkerFM.com through our mobile app. You can find us in the iOS store for iPhone users. If you have an Android, the Google Play Store. Download our app, along with, of course, the many different ways you can tune in through social media on Facebook and YouTube.
Termites, mosquitoes, roaches, spiders. The list of insects and pests goes on and on. So how do you keep them all at bay and out of your home? Call the professionals at Bugno Pest Control. That's Mr. Bugno to you, pal. Bugno Pest Control can not only eliminate insects and pests from in and around your home, they also guarantee it. They are fully licensed and insured, family owned and operated for all your pest control needs. Call Bugno Pest Control, 910-367-2501, or visit BugnoPestControl.com. Rated 5 stars on Angie's List and HomeAdvisor.com.
When you purchase a Golden Technology lift and sleep chair from US Med Express at 1733 Dawson Street, you get the benefit of a lift assist chair, a recliner, a memory button chair, a zero gravity chair, a Trendelenburg device, and a sleep chair, all in one of the most comfortable pieces of furniture you have ever experienced. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible, and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. US Med Express.
I'm a medical assistant. I'm the first person you see at the doctor's office. I love what I do. I never have the same day twice, and my job is stable, flexible, and important. And I have options. Medical assistants are in demand. I can work in a variety of healthcare settings, including specialty physicians' offices, hospitals, and in any healthcare facility. I'm a role model for my kids and a trusted healthcare professional at work. I got my start at CFCC, and you can too. Visit cfcc.edu/medical assisting and get started today.
Hey, this is Mark Markley with Recovering Hope. We're going to continue with our diversion into prevention and alternative treatments for the Wuhan flu that you don't hear anywhere else. We'll continue to speak with a variety of professionals and others with personal experience. We'll share the truth, reduce your fears, and bring you hope. So please tune in right here on the Big Talker every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. for Recovering Hope.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
Moving into the second half of our program today, thanks again to Ray Nothstine at CarolinaJournal.com for providing us an update on some of the news coming out of our capital city in Raleigh, North Carolina today. A lot of drama playing out on our state Supreme Court in terms of this voter ID constitutional amendment that was approved by you, the voter, in 2018, yet somehow, someway, the year is 2021, and voter ID is still not a requirement here in the old North State. One of the issues that CarolinaJournal.com is following extensively, the theater that is playing out on the state Supreme Court. Of course, North Carolina still doesn't have a state budget. With the fiscal year underway, as Democrat Governor Roy Cooper at odds with some of the Republican leadership within our General Assembly. And what do you know? The sun comes up on a Monday morning, and Democrats and Republicans in Raleigh can't figure it out. Speaking of and unable to figure it out, egg on her face. Friday, of course, along with the Friday news dump, came Speaker Pelosi coming to the microphone and saying, listen, we need more time. I think a sigh of relief, an exhale for many who are trying to figure out what's included in the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, the $3.5 everything and the kitchen sink proposal that's been laid out there. As far as this budget and reconciliation bill goes, well, to break some of that down for us is Ray Keating. He's the chief economist at the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. Ray, it's a pleasure. Thanks for holding. Good morning.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
I'm hanging tight. The sun's up. It's a beautiful day on the coast. We can still hang out at the beach for a couple more weeks. I mean, there are worse places to live and worse things to have on our plate, like, the fate of our country, as it looks when it comes to, the massive backlog of cargo ships hanging out of our ports, massive labor shortages, the inability to get around this pandemic without fear and hysteria. I mean, what else do you have for us, Ray?
Well, how about big tax increases that the president wants? We put out a new study on that, and we ranked 5 of those big proposals. They're all terrible and horrible, but we ranked, what's the very worst? What will impose the greatest harm? And it's bewildering. I mean, the entire point here is that, we're struggling to get out of a pandemic and a pandemic economy. One would hope that our elected officials would be talking about constructive things, like tax relief, regulatory relief to get things moving again. But instead, we've got a long list of tax increases that we're looking at that are just going to create higher costs for entrepreneurs, for investors, for businesses, and for workers. So it's bewildering.
So you're telling me that if you make less than $400,000, as a household, you may see some impact from some of these proposals that are being discussed in Washington, despite what we hear from the president and everyone else on this zero-cost initiative that's being laid out in front of us?
Yeah, that $400,000 thing, I just, as an economist, drives me crazy because it assumes that every person is an economic island and we don't affect each other. And when you're talking about increasing, we looked at 5 of the tax increases. We looked at a much higher capital gains tax rate. We looked at a higher dividends tax, higher individual tax rate, higher self-employment tax, and higher corporate income tax. Now, if anybody actually thinks that if all of those get passed, now hopefully they will not, but if all those get passed, that they think that only people earning more than $400,000 a year are going to be affected, well, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn. Would you like to buy it?
With that, we talk about capital gains, and for me, I guess this is like something that I have to plan for every 8 to 10 years, because as someone who's approaching 40 years old, just getting into the workforce, in 2007, 2008, I was enjoying the different offerings that I had from employers when it came to my 401k. They were able to match the 401k. 2008 hits, and then they take away the 401k. So I got to roll it over into my IRA. I get the IRA up running. It's making some gains. My financial advisor is making the investments, and now here we roll into another economic downturn, and now they want to come after my IRA and my savings. So when it comes to different investments that I make, so what is going to be on the horizon 10 years from now that's going to stymie me from becoming financially free and independent and trying to put food on my table and sustain some type of future for my unit at home?
It's difficult. I mean, I'm an optimist at heart, so I hope that we're going to get some elected officials that understand economics and understand the impact of taxes, and maybe we'll go in a different direction. But to highlight the capital gains tax, I've always argued that it's the most destructive tax because it's a tax on the returns on entrepreneurship and investment. Listen, if we want to get this economy moving again, if we want to see robust growth, robust job creation, you've got to have more entrepreneurship. You got to have businesses starting, right, developing, expanding. That all relies on financial capital, on investment. So when you tax those returns more, well, guess what? People are going to do different things with their money. They're not going to take on the big risks, the big uncertainties of investing in a business, right? This is Economics 101, but it eludes many of our folks in Washington, unfortunately.
Speaking of Economics 101, I'm just trying to figure out, how it is absurd and, unthinkable for, a business when they have different regulations and tax hurdles that they now have in front of them potentially, how they're just supposed to eat, those sorts of, restrictions on the way in which they can do business, and that we should just, sell that dollar trinket for 98 cents now, even though your taxes have been increased, twofold from those in Washington, D.C., because that's kind of the reaction from those in Washington. Well, those greedy corporations, they can push those costs to somebody else. Why would they make you pay for anything else? That's absurd. Apparently, that was the exact word used by the White House press secretary last week.
Yeah, there's an assumption, and I've come across this many times over the years. There's there's an assumption that entrepreneurs will just do what they do. Businesses will just do what they do. It doesn't matter how much government tax and regulates them. And that's just completely disconnected from economic reality and economic history. We've seen time and time again where when government goes down this path, it's not good news for the economy in general, for overall. And again, this goes back to the point about it's not just big businesses, it's small businesses. It's not just those earning more than $400,000 a year. And listen, even if it was just those earning $400,000 a year, it would still be a dumb idea, right? But the point is that the impact reaches far beyond those individuals, and it hits everybody. And again, our study just kind of brings that home, right? That even when you're talking about the corporate income tax, that, raising that, a lot of people are like, oh, big corporations, we don't care. Well, most corporations are small. Most corporations are small businesses, and they're going to be affected by it as well.
Ray Keating is chief economist at the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. Ray, before I let you go, and amazing that Nancy Pelosi was unable to get this across the finish line with the different factions of the Democrat Party divided. And I think that was the best news we've heard in 10 months and maybe even 19 months was we can't get this and we need more time to push this forward. I think everyone just collectively said, whew, people standing their ground, even if it is those on the far left saying, we're going to get in the middle of your agenda if you don't, adhere to our demands. That's an interesting way to work on, building some type of coalition in Washington, but we'll see how that kind of, shakes out. But tell me about this pipe dream that if we spend $3.5 trillion, it will cost us nothing, because I'm really intrigued to hear this sort of line of thought out there and explain to us in some type of layman terms.
Well, pretty straightforward. If you think that government just, magically creates $3.5 trillion, then we're fine. We're good. It's a Harry Potter economy then. But if you understand that those resources have to come from somewhere, and they come from the private sector, whether it's through taxes or whether it's through borrowing, fewer resources left for, those places that are actually going to get us out of this mess, meaning the private sector, meaning entrepreneurs, investors, and businesses. So, yeah, there are very real costs to this, and we should be looking at government spending just as much as we're looking at taxes and regulations, because there are real big negatives there, to say the least.
Well, but that when we talk about spending and government spending in Washington, both major political parties can share some of that blame, right? Republicans haven't done us any favors in trying to limit or hold back on the growth of government.
No, listen, it's been one of those unfortunate bipartisan affairs, right? That's not what we want. We want bipartisanship for pro-growth stuff, again, tax and regulatory relief, things that'll really get us on the right track. But unfortunately, as I said, we're very much pointed in the wrong direction, and we've got a lot of work ahead, to say the least.
Ray Keating, chief economist at the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. Ray, how can people find out more about what you do and why you do it over at the SBE Council?
Just head over to sbecouncil.org. You'll see our analysis. You can become a member. All sorts of great stuff, from public policy to also ways to help small businesses do better in terms of their own enterprises. So please check out sbecouncil.org.
Civics 101 and Econ 101, maybe requirements, to get a diploma within the high school level or as you move into places of higher learning. Would not that be a way in which we can maybe change the flow of the conversation, Ray, when it comes to what's going on in our home and how government impacts the things that we have to do in our home to keep the lights on and food on the table?
You're singing my song. I mean, it's Economics 101 that we've got to bring all the way down to whether it's junior high or high school, and we've really got to get people to understand how the economy works and not this, magical thing where government will spend money and everything will just be hunky-dory and great. It doesn't work that way. We've got to look at how the economy actually works.
Ray, thanks so much for the time this morning.
All right, take care, Joe.
That's Ray Keating, once again, chief economist at the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. You can find out more about what they do and why they do it at sbecouncil.org. That's sbecouncil.org.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer
and Amy Ludwig and Kristen Ludwig
from Just Think, the podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7, The Big Talker, on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation, and most importantly, just think.
Hear Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
In this corner, bugs. Every creepy, crawly pest that lurks in your home. And in this corner, Bug-No Pest and Termite Control. That's Mr. Bug-No to you, pal. If you have unwanted pests, let Bug-No Pest and Termite Control take the fight to them. Bug-No Pest and Termite Control is a family-owned and operated business, fully licensed and insured, and can handle all of your residential and commercial pest and termite control needs. Rated 5 stars on Angie's List and HomeAdvisor.com. Call 910-367-2501 to give bugs a knockout.
Government has become too big, too overtaxing, and is constantly over-regulating every aspect of your life.
If you agree with that, tune in to Consumer Choice Radio every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM with me, Yael Osowski.
And me, David Clement. For an hour, you'll get expert analysis on what the government is sinking its teeth into next and how you, as a consumer, can push back.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint and the co-host of Wake Up Our Faith, every Saturday and Sunday right here in Wilmington's Big Talker. We invite you to join with our nonprofit movement by participating in the Portable Faith Community. This is a $10 a month tax-deductible contribution, and you get access to daily encouragement, resources, as well as our prayer community. You can go to wakeupmyfaith.com to get subscribed and learn more. That's wakeupmyfaith.com.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Well, never a dull moment here atop the Murkinson building as we had some issues this morning around 5 o'clock. Our signal went offline at 106.7 FM. And why? Well, apparently there was a fiber cable cut due to some ongoing road construction near where our radio tower is located on the way to Snows Cut Bridge towards Carolina Beach. And, I had some type of inkling. I don't know whether it was just my wizardry sort of magic internally that I have in the body that knew when I put feet on floor this morning that something wasn't right. And maybe it was because I fell asleep at like 9 o'clock last night. Too much sleep, and I was like wide awake and ready to rip and roar. Put my feet on the floor. That's the first thought I have every day when I wake up at dark 30. Feet on floor. Get moving. And then, everything else comes into frame. And, that was not my first thought this morning. My first thought was something's wrong. Well, get into the car, and the signal is off the air. So then immediately I kind of wait until I got to the studio to see if I can fix some things here inside the office to make sure it's not on our end and it's something externally, meaning outside of our office. And quickly, upon arrival, I realized that was the case. And from there, had to make the dreadful call to our engineer early this morning so I could get him up and send him out to the transmitter. And he quickly reported back within the last hour that there was some sort of cable cut that powers our transmitter and our little old signal there at the tower near Snows Cut Bridge. He said he didn't have a timeline for us, but what do you know? We're back up and running before we sign off here this morning at 10 o'clock. So a tip of the cap to those workers think from Spectrum, that had to repair the damaged fiber line that, well, brings us power. Big tip of the cap, a sigh of relief. But which is why, once again, as we get back online at 106.7 FM, which is why we take time each and every day to try and promote some of the other avenues in which you can find us. I know I sound like a broken record, but I do notice an uptick as I got the analytics on our website and our social media platforms. I can see how many people are logging on and whatnot, and I tend to see an uptick when these occasions occur every so often where something goes on with our equipment. So we're back up at 106.7 FM. It appears the fiber has been reconnected. I want to thank our engineer for getting up early this morning to help analyze the situation and get me an update. So now that our feet are on the ground and we are up and running this morning, it's been a busy last couple of days, no doubt, at the Catenacci Casa, as it's become commonplace over the weekend. I'm very thankful and appreciative that many of those who come to our area from outside of town or who are in our area choosing to continue their celebrations of life and marriage the way they have been over the last several months, despite the fear and hysteria you continue to hear. To New York, Fauci on the Sunday morning talk shows telling us it's too early to tell if we can get together for Christmas this year. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of people attending ball games and all sorts of other concerts and events over the weekend, as we've seen that become, a new normal, getting people back into the stands, whether it be at high school football up to the NFL ranks and everywhere in between. And then you've got people on Sunday morning talk shows telling us that we might not be able to get together for Christmas. Tune that guy out, for the past, 19 months, but nonetheless, it's amazing that if you have a simple, well-informed, thought-out question, you pose that question to someone who has this fear and hysteria way of looking at things, and they can't give you a clear-cut answer. But we must adhere to all of the recommendations and guidelines that they put in place and encourage, like not getting together with your family on Christmas because it's too early to tell. Who the hell asks that question anyway? Par for the course, I guess, when you get your news and consume the Sunday morning talk shows. I don't think I've watched a Sunday morning talk show since, I can't remember when. Later on today, the New Hanover County Board of Commissioners will meet. That meeting is scheduled for 4 o'clock at the historic downtown courthouse. One of the nuggets that Commissioner Zappel told us about last week was the fact that they will get their first update from the group tasked with the responsibility of the Community Endowment Fund of $1.2 billion. It's been 8 months since this fund was created and the appointees were put on this group that will oversee the investment and the dispersion of the $1.2 billion. Not that it's all going to happen at once, of course. Much of that money will go into sort of an investment and endowment to build up interest over time. Some of the monies, of course, will be delegated and allocated the way this group of people see fit. So we'll see, these quote-unquote investments, what strings will be attached to those investments, and ultimately what the results will be of spending massive amounts of money on, whatever they see fit. County Board of Commissioners will get an update on that beginning at 4 o'clock today. We've got a New Hanover County School Board meeting set for tomorrow. Another issue concerning school safety just the other day surrounding an altercation that took place on a school bus on the way home from the school day at Noble Middle School. Also, another shooting at a high school football game out in Fayetteville over the weekend at 71st High School. Beefed up security out in their neck of the woods this morning. And also within the schools today, face masks are now optional in Pender County. Starting this morning, students and teachers in Pender County can choose whether to wear masks in the classroom. By the way, when we look at our kids and the way we've muzzled them up, particularly in the schools, did you know that the U.S., in fact, has some of the most strictest mask guidance for kids anywhere in the world? Why is that? 910-299-7535 if you'd like to be a part of the show.
Keeping Leland informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
And a $500 billion spending plan. The Supreme Court will take up some weighty issues in its new term, which begins today.
Gun rights come up in the first week of November with a case from New York that involves the right to carry a firearm in public. The state is one of just 6 to limit who has that right. December begins with abortion as the justices hear arguments in Mississippi's bid to enforce a ban on most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. It is a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade.
Correspondent Ben Thomas says justices will also hear a case out of Maine focusing on taxpayer funding of religious schools. In the waters off Orange County, California.
I'm picking this up and then I'm going to take it to disposal center as much as I can carry right now.
He's part of an army of volunteers working to clean up a big oil spill, the result of a leak in an underwater pipeline.
It has been maintained and we are investigating if the pipeline is the source of this, how this happened.
Martin Wilshire, CEO of pipeline owner Amplify Energy, at least 126,000 gallons of oil spilled, closing beaches for weeks and perhaps even months. Taking effect today, a COVID vaccine mandate for teachers and other staff of New York City's public schools. The unvaccinated will not be allowed to work, according to Mayor Bill de Blasio. A similar mandate will be taking effect in Los Angeles in 11 days. On Wall Street right now, stock futures are lower. The Dow futures off a fraction. NASDAQ futures down 33 points. S&P futures 5 points in the red. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Tell me why Relief Factor is so successful in lowering or eliminating pain. I'm often asked that question. Pete and Seth Talbot, the father and son founders of Relief Factor, tell me they believe our bodies were designed to heal. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, 100% drug-free ingredients that each help your body deal with inflammation. Order the 3-week quick start now. Discount it to only $19.95 to see if it will work for you too. Call 800-500-8384. ReliefFactor.com.
Angie's List is now Angie, and getting your to-do list done just got easier. Between back to school and with the holidays around the corner, it can feel like there's no time to tackle home projects. Whether you need help with emergency repairs or major upgrades, Angie matches you with top local pros who can get the job done right. Browse reviews, see upfront pricing, and instantly book hundreds of projects. Save time for what matters most. Book your next project at Angie.com. That's ANGI.com.
For the first time in more than 2 years, the London Marathon run on its traditional course.
Around 400 runners joined some of the world's best, starting at Blackheath in southeast London and finishing off at the Mall in front of Buckingham Palace. London Marathon CEO Nick Biddle said because of the pandemic they had to make a few changes.
You no longer bring your baggage to the start, you delivered it beforehand. We no longer hand you your medal, it's in a bag beforehand, lots of different things.
Former UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock joined the crowd hopeful to complete the full 26-mile route.
And I'm feeling pretty nervous about the last 6. I've never run further than 20 miles.
Many competitors were happy to finally be a part of something bigger, over a year after the pandemic shut down most major events.
It's so good to be back out after, everything for the last couple of years.
Karen Chamath, London.
News and analysis at townhall.com. One of the unintended consequences of requiring people to take the COVID vaccine and the ongoing impact of raging inflation. Here's Ken Lauren.
Vaccine mandates in many cities are forcing fast food restaurants to close indoor dining areas, cutting into their profits. The Commerce Department says the consumers are spending more, but with an inflation rate that is remaining hot. Officials also acknowledge that inflation's impact on fourth quarter spending is likely to dampen holiday sales. Ken Larman reporting.
A hiker claims that he spotted Brian Laundrie on the Appalachian Trail in Tennessee. Laundrie is the object of an ongoing manhunt, that following the killing of his girlfriend, Gabby Petito. Once again on Wall Street this hour, stock futures now mixed. Dow futures are up 6 points. NASDAQ futures down 32 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
Seven minutes past the top of the hour, our final 60-minute session of the day. Glad to see we're back up and running at 106.7 FM. There was some sort of cable fiber, fiber cable, rather, that was cut that feeds our transmitter and office at the tower on the way to Carolina Beach right before Snows Cut Bridge, and that knocked us offline from around 5 this morning till just before the top of the hour. So good to know that we're back up and running at 106.7 FM, and good to know that it was not anything internally as far as any equipment that got fried or anything that we failed to update. Always reassuring that we've got all our P's and Q's squared away as we seek out again your calls and your feedback day to day on the way we approach not only this morning program but the rest of the broadcast day. And we've got some changes that'll be coming up throughout the afternoon, starting this afternoon rather, after lunchtime. And Chad made mention of those back on Friday. After a busy weekend, of course, back in the swing here this morning. The big news coming from late Friday, of course, was the fact that the Speaker of the House from Washington, Nancy Pelosi, unable to get to infrastructure and the reconciliation bill across the finish line. And then you've got the Looney Tunes out there, trying to twist the arm and influence those who are representing their constituency and their individual states, like Joe Manchin and the Arizona Senator Kristen Sinema. Don't know if you caught that video from the weekend. Kristen Sinema, and the more she just bucks the trend, the more and more I enjoy following her everyday ways in which she has chose to govern in her first term as senator from the Valley of the Sun out in Arizona. And that is, of course, coming off of her decision to hold out on the reconciliation bill. So because she and Joe Manchin were unwilling to sign on to the $3.5 trillion spend everything and the kitchen sink piece of legislation pushed by mainly the progressives in the House, well, that upset the AOCs of the world. And AOC was playing out her latest drama in front of the U.S. Capitol over the weekend. Because the progressives, AOC, and those who are cut from her cloth have said, well, if the Senate is not moving forward on the $3.5 trillion, we're not voting for the infrastructure bill. So that's where we stand. A little divide right now in the Democrat Party between the two chambers in Congress. Joe Biden even went to Capitol Hill late last week, held off on some of his scheduled travel to try and convince those Democrats to move forward on his economic agenda or Obama's agenda. Who knows who's pulling the strings back there? Speaker Pelosi made hint of that last week. She was either sipping on Grandpa's cough medicine a little too early last week, Thursday, I believe it was, or pulled the curtain back just a bit on who's pulling the strings. She said, we must approve Obama's Build Back Better agenda. So Pelosi, unable, in a rare defeat, unable to pull together her caucus to get this $5 trillion in spending over the finish line. Infighting between the squad and Senators Manchin and Sinema. But go check out that video, and I think the toilet flush says everything. When the toilet was flushed, and you heard it after Senator Sinema used the restroom while being lambasted by activists who were trying to twist her arm and shame her because of her obstructionist views towards the $3.5 trillion in the infrastructure. She said, listen, I'm going to continue to roll the way I roll. You want to come into the John with me? Well, that's on you. Literally. The woman goes into a public restroom, and these people with no shame follow her in. And Senator Sinema says, okay, you want to come in? Well, enjoy. I have to relieve myself. Literally, use the restroom, the toilet flushes, she walks out like nothing, washes her hands, and takes back off. Have a good day, everyone. These people come in and they're filming a stall in a public restroom. La La Land, Looney Tunes out there on the day-to-day. I don't know if you caught that video from over the weekend, but these Looney Tune activists harassing Senator Sinema, following her into the restroom. I just got a complete chuckle out of all of it as she just went into the stall, took care of business, flushed the John, and took back off. I mean, the way this woman operates. But ultimately, of course, this show that we see play out day to day in Washington, D.C., you have to get some enjoyment in all of this theater every once in a while, because at the end of the day, given that we are the ones who have to deal with the implications and consequences of the decisions from the elites in Washington, the decisions made by the hierarchy inside the Beltway, we might as well get a laugh at their expense when you can. And I thought that was pretty funny over the weekend. These activists, screaming bloody murder over Senator Sinema's unwillingness to join on the party line here. She says, well, you want to follow me to the bathroom? You ain't stopping me. I got to go. You got to go. You got to go. Also from over the weekend, we heard this NBC reporter at Talladega trying to convince we, the people who were tuned in to the post-race coverage of the winner, that, the faithful race fans in Talladega were cheering for the winner of the race, who took the checkered flag. Let's go, Brandon. That's my new undercover phrase that we'll use when we talk about, the current administration. Let's go, Brandon. Apparently, that's what was coming from the crowd at Talladega following the race Saturday afternoon. Yet when you tuned into the audio of that coverage, it seemed to sound like something was different coming out of the mouths of those at the race, just like we've heard at countless college football games over the start of the season. I don't know. Maybe you can tune into that audio and report back as to maybe what you heard. Was it "Let's go, Brandon," or was it some other sort of phrase that's become commonplace at sporting events around the country as of late? I'll let you decide on that. Of course, as I mentioned, locally, later on this afternoon, we'll get an update as New Hanover County Commissioners are scheduled to meet surrounding the $1.2 billion endowment fund, profits from the sale of New Hanover Regional Medical Center. We have a County Board of Education meeting tomorrow. School safety, security, of course, has been a hot topic as of late. We know that the commission has opened the doors to upwards of $350 million to get a handle on community and school violence. Now, not necessarily in our broadcast area, but just outside it earlier this week at 71st High School. I mean, back on Friday, shooting at a high school football game, 2 people injured. This coming off of the incident that took place here at New Hanover not too long ago. But just this cockamamie idea, and you see it all over when it comes to government. Let's put a price tag on something that we don't necessarily have any idea as to what it'll cost. Let's just make sure we've got all that money secured and stowed away for when we come up with ways to spend it. We see that in Washington. We see that, well, even at the lowest levels of government and the most local levels, rather than an approach that you and I may take inside our own home. Let's figure out how we can come up with a solution to an issue, and then work out the financials and maybe having to shuffle around parts of your budget to make it work. Let's get a plan in place, and then let's work out the finite details when it comes to things like cost. That's the way in which the legislative process should work. Yet those in Washington, and it seems like everywhere else, have a completely different sort of view. Let's put a price tag on it before we know what's in it. Let's pass the bill before we know what's in it. The common way of thinking among those within government these days. Also locally, of course, up in Pender County, as we mentioned of it going in a break, now we'll have our own case study as we continue to see cases, hospitalizations, deaths decline after a rough September, coming in waves. Pender County opts to go optional when it comes to the masks inside their school system beginning today. "17 minutes past the hour here on the Big Talker FM. Oh, by the way, for the folks who live up off of Gordon Road, this might come as a surprise, but apparently last weekend, not the one that just passed, the one prior, apparently there was a drive-by shooting at 4 PM on Acres Drive that no one really made mention of all of last week. And the sheriff's office said, yeah, well, the guy who lives there, he's on house arrest. The house has been shot at before. Nothing really to see here. Looks like gang retaliation played a role in all of this. Someone shot 4 or 5 rounds towards the house before speeding away in a gray SUV. But nothing really to see here. We meant to alert the public to this, but no one was injured, so never mind, what you see over there in the corner. Might have been a surprise to folks who live off of Gordon Road that last Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, gunshots rang out towards a house with a man living on house arrest. And, the home has been shot out before, according to the sheriff's office. And it just has to do with those gangs and all that, gang retaliation and violence that we have seen spark up over the past several months. But nothing really to see here. That was not this past Saturday, one prior. And news came out on that, Thursday of last week. 19 minutes past the hour here on the Big Talker FM.
It starts with one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock.
Hey there, it's Charlie Miller, your state representative for Brunswick and New Hanover counties. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to check out my Facebook page, Representative Charlie Miller, to stay up to date on everything that's happening in the state legislature. You can also sign up for my weekly legislative newsletter to receive a more detailed report on how the voices of District 19 are being heard in Raleigh. If my office can be of any assistance to you, please reach out at 919-733-6753. Paid for by the committee to elect Charlie Miller for NC House.
we wouldn't sell you a dining room table, so don't buy a medical device from a furniture store. US Med Express is Wilmington's leading supplier of golden technology lift and sleep chairs, carrying a variety of models in our showroom at 1733 Dawson Street. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. US Med Express.
As Wilmington's leader in restorative and regenerative medicine, the Frank Institute specializes in health optimization. Simply put, we use in-depth evaluations and lab testing to determine the best treatments for each patient. So whether you're suffering from an unseen hormonal imbalance or a simple vitamin deficiency, the Frank Institute is ready to get you back to better living. Call us at 910-679-8534 or fill out our symptom survey online at frankinstitute.com. Because at the Frank Institute, you live, we help.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
This is Chad Adams, president of Red Wolf Broadcasting, proud to announce our fall lineup starting October of 2021. From 7 to 10 a.m., we have Joe Catenacci covering all of the local issues of the day and looking at some of the national things that are happening. Then Mike Gallagher, one of America's longest-running talk show hosts, from 10 to noon. From noon to 3 p.m., we have the up-and-coming Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. You're going to love that show. And then one of the toughest hosts in America, Dana Lash, from 3 to 6 p.m. So join us each and every day, Monday through Friday, here on the Big Talker FM.
Here's 1 minute of tree knowledge in 30 seconds with K.O. Davis.
It's important that you have somebody, a trained professional, to trim your trees. There are these guys out there that just hack trees, and that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. Don't let somebody hat rack your trees. That's a tree term for hat rack. You know how they just cut a tree and it looks like it's just got like a hat rack? These guys just go up and just cut the trees off, and they don't cut it back to the proper spot. Call us, because we care about your trees.
Visit KO'sCoastToCoastTree.com.
Don't let some yahoo hat rack your trees.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join us for Wake Up Our Faith, a real conversation about living out your faith between Sundays, streaming live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Catch the replay every Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Stop by and visit us on the web at uprint.life.
Just like the wide-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Just like the wide-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing. Ooh, baby, ooh, say ooh. And the days go by like a strand in the wind, in the web that is my own. I begin again. Said to my friend, baby, nothing else matters. He was no more.
All right, we'll have Jeff Rivenbark from WWAY giving us an update on some of the news. Moving into this first day of the broadcast week, he'll be with us in about 10 minutes. Also, ahead tomorrow, Senator Tom Tillis scheduled to join us along with Congressman David Rouser, going to get a double dip into Washington, D.C. politics and all the news coming out of, both the House and the Senate tomorrow. Again, conversations you're going to hear nowhere else Tuesday morning with representation in Washington, D.C. and Senator Tillis and Representative David Rouser of the 7th Congressional District. following the show here this morning, I got to go get a swab up the nose. Got to get a COVID test for travel later this week with Coastal Carolina. And we've got a unique week coming up, a short one, as it were, following the game that we helped call Saturday. Big win over Louisiana Monroe. My Chants are 15th in the nation. Hey, for you Wolfpack fans, I told you it was going to be, by the skin of your teeth, maybe a letdown against Louisiana Tech. You held on. You remain in the national rankings. You've got a week off. And then a couple of the big ACC tests on the horizon. Technically, you control your own destiny. Now, you've got lots of football still to be played this college football season. Well, you got Boston College and the U on the horizon for you Wolfpack fans. And Carolina bounced back, an ugly loss to Georgia Tech last week. You knock off Duke at home. The victory bell stays in Chapel Hill. Sam Howell looked, like he was expected to look early on this season, a potential Heisman Trophy candidate, and the heels rolled as well, along with the East Carolina and the Demon Deacons out in Wake Forest, also nationally ranked as they knocked off Louisville over the weekend out in Winston-Salem. It was family weekend across many of the universities, so a lot of these stadiums were packed. And maybe for dad and mom, you get your first look at what your kid really does in school and on the college campuses. Maybe an eye opener for you. It was had to be the case for many down at Coastal. A big old party after the football game that I had to navigate through to try and get home, and very tempting to maybe spend the night down there in Conway, but. A good decision was made as I came back this way, but only to do some 12-ounce curls yesterday. Not only because it was the greatest day in New York sports in a long, long time. You had the Giants, the Jets, and the Yankees all get wins, and the Yankees able to continue their season into the wild card. They play the Red Sox tomorrow at Fenway, ultimately to get into the divisional series. The Panthers got beat up down in Big D, and the Braves will also get ready for their divisional round. But for myself, it was like, where's OJ? The last time you had so many good things going on in New York sports, OJ was driving a white Bronco down the L.A. freeway. So I'm like, all right, where's the juice? Hold on a sec. Actually made a documentary of that crazy day because it was like the Knicks were playing the Rockets in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The Rangers had just won the Stanley Cup. I hate the Rangers, but nonetheless, it was 1994 prior to their win. Raising Lord Stanley was like 1940. I remember giving those chants out at Devils games back in the day. Last time you won a Stanley Cup, Ranger fans, was 1940 before Messier and Mateau. A little too much into the sports talk here this morning, but nonetheless, let's go, Brandon. That was the big chant from over the weekend. Let's go, Brandon. Look, they're cheering for you, Brandon, says the NBC sports reporter, who obviously understood exactly what those fans were cheering for and about to close out Talladega Saturday afternoon. Well, kids back with the muzzles on today. In most schools, you got the option in Pender County now, the only local district to move forward with that optional way of looking at things. Looks like we're on the back end of the latest wave of COVID that hit us, and it hit us again hard. Many people with lots of questions, and that's kind of where we've stood on this the entire time. Why is it that when we present well thought out, intelligent questions surrounding the Rona, the basic response is, we know best, just sit in the corner and do as you're told. Why can't you give us, why are we not conducting studies and research the ways in which, many other countries are surrounding herd immunity, surrounding natural immunity, surrounding, what roles things like obesity play in COVID and, the terrible symptoms that one may face if you get COVID. Why is it that we're not hearing that? Well, at least 9 out of every 10 patients that we're seeing who are sick and hospitalized and on ICUs throughout the state are obese and overweight? Why is no one talking about those sorts of things? Nor have they for the past 19 months, which then begins to enter in a level of uncertainty and distrust from those who have been making decisions that have impacted our lives greatly for the last 2 years. 910-299-7535. Caller, you're with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Are you sufficiently recovered from your weekend to talk about the things I wanted to talk about last week at 7:30 in the morning?
Well, if we're going to talk about Civil War generals, I'm out. If you want to talk about the $1.2 billion endowment fund that county commissioners are going to get an update on, I'm all ears.
How about we talk about the fairy tale and myth of the 1898 memorial downtown?
I'm out. I've got more things on my mind today than what went on in 1898. I hate to break it to you, caller, and I appreciate it. I love that you're tuned in, but all right. You know what? Hold on. If you're still with us, you've got 60 seconds to tell us about the fairy tale of 1898. The floor is yours.
The memorial down there is like putting up a memorial to the Gotti crime family and their lieutenants, because in 1898, we had been under Reconstruction rules for 33 years, and the government of Wilmington and the surrounding area was appointed by Union generals of the class of Hooker and Sherman, and it had become basically anarchy. They would block the roads when the farmers were trying to come in and sell their crops or take them to the port, and rob them, basically. Tell them it's a toll. If they can't pay the toll, then they take their cotton or whatever they had. And the people that the memorial's for were crooks and thieves. And it went on for 33 years after the war, from 1865 to 1898. Other places it went on until the 1920s, where all the local officials were appointed by corrupt people from up north. And, it's like having, what it's like around Newark and the ports in New York, and who runs it underground. And, I take my dogs down there every chance I get and let them give a three-legged salute to those things. And, it's a fairy tale, a myth. If the Wilmington Journal's records and archives hadn't got burnt, you could read it. And that was a local black paper that was here in Wilmington during that time. And they wrote scathing articles about how the government was run and all that. And that was destroyed, I think, intentionally, so that those archives wouldn't be there to research this kind of thing.
All right. We got another history lesson this morning from a frequent caller of ours. We gave him the 90 seconds as we continue to live by our theme of the purveyors of free speech, even though I really have no interest in many of the things that he was laying out there. But nonetheless, we take all calls from all viewpoints, as long as we keep it clean as far as the language goes. Thankfully, we've hit a timeout here on the Big Talker FM. Let's readjust, reassess, and we'll get some of the news that you may have missed from over the weekend when we get back with our friend Jeff Rivenbark at a WWAY.
Traveling down the road
Wake up to Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
And good morning, Carolina. It is a very busy news morning today. I'm Donna Gregory.
And I'm Jeff Rivenbark. We're glad you're starting your Tuesday with us.
Be prepared and ready to go for the day ahead.
For the time being, we are dry and quiet, but we are dealing with some patchy fog.
And catch up with the overnight news you need to know before heading out the door.
We'll have more details and more live coverage in just a few moments.
Get up early for Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
Hear Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
All right, every Monday, to round out the guest list, our friends over at WWAY join the program, give us a little recap of some of the stories they've been following over the last few days while you were out and about enjoying recreational activities, family, friends at the cookout, down the road from your house, at a neighbor's, or whatever you may have been up to over the weekend. WWAY following news this morning as they will be at noon today and later on this evening. Jeff Rivenbark with us from Good Morning Carolina. Jeff, it's a pleasure. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great. Able to commandeer your studios Friday night last week for some high school football coverage. Always get to enjoy my time with Jake and the news crew late night on a Friday. Everyone wanting to get out, and I'm like, well, hold on. Let's get to some high school football first, and then everyone can leave.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to stick around for Friday night football.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and very competitive season so far across the area with the teams positioning for Mid-Eastern Conference supremacy. I know Jake does a great job not only following the football programs and all the other sports that are being played this fall, but shows some love to the cheerleaders, the marching band. I'm always intrigued by the marching band. Just, of course, how much time these kids put in to their endeavor. It is a constant thing after school each day, and it is military sort of practice that they embark on each and every day after school.
It is, and it's interesting. I know a lot of the games were Friday night, but I think one of the games is actually tomorrow, which is in this era of the pandemic. Things are a little bit different from what we're used to.
Yeah, no doubt. We even had a Saturday afternoon game over at Legion Stadium that Jake was following. Again, Jake does great work, as do you, each morning in providing the news and the headlines to us. When we talk about some of the things going on here locally, Jeff, we had some good news last week when it comes to some job creation and expansion here in New Hanover County. What are the details on that?
Yeah, and actually, Joe, it was the top story on WBTV.com last week. Vansica, software as a service provider, plans to add more than 100 jobs to New Hanover County, but these aren't just any old jobs. I mean, the salaries for these jobs is going to be like $80,000. So this is really nice, top-paying positions that are coming here. It's part of a $4.9 million investment to expand operations in Wilmington. So that's really the kind of talent that I think we want to attract to the Cape Fear area to continue to grow the economy. And at $80,000 annual salary, that's pretty good money.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's good to see in this time where there's so much turmoil surrounding our economy and the amount of jobs that are out there, and whether or not we're growing or shrinking or remaining stagnant, that there are people expanding here right in southeastern North Carolina. As you said, some well-paying jobs within the software and IT line of work. My sister. Both of my sisters, in fact, work in IT, and I can tell you, directly from what I see when encouraging your children what to do. Jeff, stay away from jobs like ours and enter into a workforce like my sisters if you're looking for making a pretty penny in what you do day to day.
Exactly, and considering New Hanover County's overall average annual wage is $46,000, a little bit over $46,000, the fact that this company is going to hire or bring on 100 new jobs at $80,000, that's almost double what most of us in New Hanover County are making.
Hey, speaking of a boom and things growing, we have seen, of course, the number of film productions reaching historic and record levels this year. Coming out of the pandemic, we know some of the grant money that's afforded at the state level is being utilized. In fact, warehouse and office space is in demand as the film industry continues to boom in the Cape Fear. If someone has some commercial space or an empty warehouse, it could become a place where you're able to make some money off of it if it's empty right now. With the film industry looking for more space.
Certainly. I mean, it's one of those things we don't often think about. But last week I had the chance to speak with Johnny Griffin. He's with the Wilmington Film Commission, and he was telling me that as of last Monday, there were 5 productions shooting films in the Wilmington area, and there were 2 additional projects that are prepping. So we've got about 7 projects somewhere in the works right now. And he said, with all this activity, it's a great thing. It's impressive. But he said it's a challenge for him and his role because there just simply isn't enough space at EUE Screen Gems Studios out there on 23rd Street. He said, normally the film production companies would at least maintain some office space or warehouse space at Screen Gems, for their staffing and staging props and things of that nature. But he says, we just don't have room for them. He says 3 productions right now do not have any presence at Screen Gems. And he says one of the hardships for him right now is trying to find commercial space, as you mentioned, that can house the props and other things that are necessary. And if you've been out to the Point at Barclay, you probably noticed recently some odd-looking structure that's going up, and that's part of a movie set where they're going to be filming Florida Man in the next couple of weeks, possibly this week or next week. I actually drove out there Friday after work. I was just so curious about it, and took some pictures of the cargo containers and some of the other things that are being positioned and put up for this set. But it is very interesting to see how, the boom with the film industry is causing some growing pains at the studios.
Yeah, with that said, as I highlighted, this is sort of a historic year when it comes to film production in our area. And with that said, also always amazing to me, how they're able to build this illusion, as you said, over at the Point. It looks like just an empty sort of front, and it is an empty front. But what it will look like ultimately on the big screen is so cool. The way they're able to use that technology to transform sort of an empty field with a storefront and make it look, like it is as close to reality as it gets. So always, cool to learn more about some of the behind-the-scenes ways in which a production, takes shape. And given that we have so much going on here, it's hard not to run into a production, whether it be downtown at the beach or elsewhere across our Cape Fear region. Jeff, on some heavier news. There was a recent hit and run that resulted in a fatality on Carolina Beach Road. It seems as if law enforcement has a suspect, and that suspect is now, in custody and faced his first court appearance last week. What are the details as that case sort of unfolds?
Yeah, that was actually the 3rd most clicked on story last week on our website. Adam Marshall, suspect here. He's accused of hitting and killing Ahmaud Brown. Ahmaud Brown was traveling on Carolina Beach Road. Had a problem with a tire, pulled over, was checking the tire, and in the process of trying to fix that problem or assess, what type of problem he had, according to authorities, he was hit by a driver, and they have since identified that driver as Adam Marshall. Now, what's interesting is that for about a week, we were getting the word out on the news about, if you know anything about this accident, call police or call the Highway Patrol. They finally narrowed it down to Adam Marshall, and they say that after the accident, he drove to Richmond County and asked a mechanic to fix his car, or his girlfriend's car that he was supposedly operating, and gave that mechanic 24 hours to fix my car because I'm trying to, get rid of any damage or whatever. Now, that's what the DA and what the authorities are telling us. We are finding out a little bit more about the victim, too, Ahmaud Brown. He was a young man, 25 years old. He had always wanted to be a barber and had just opened up his own barber shop. And he said cutting hair for him was like art because somebody could sit in the chair and when they would leave out of his chair, it was like he could create piece of art on their head, with their haircut, their styling. Ahmaud Brown's family was in the courtroom last week when Adam Marshall was there. Bond was set at $30,000, and it would be interesting to see what other details surface in the weeks to come as a result of this hit-and-run accident.
Jeff, two more stories I want to touch on quickly. October 1st, what was that, last Friday, Live Nation, who manages and operates the Riverfront Park and concert venue, they have put a vaccine mandate in place for the upcoming shows and concerts through the fall season. At the time, there was, I think, Lady A was there, and there were some other, acts that led to another packed house, down there at Riverfront Park. WWAY was able to catch up with a few concert fans and goers. What do they have to say about this new vaccine mandate that's been put in place by Live Nation?
Yeah, it was interesting. At the Lady A concert last Thursday night, the vaccine mandate was not in effect. But starting today, it is in effect. Any concert that takes place at the Live Nation pavilion there, you will have to wear a mask when you're there, unless you're drinking a beverage. We spoke with a number of people who said, I won't be coming back once the mandate goes into effect. There were other people who told us, I'm surprised it's not already in effect. So clearly, people are split, both ways on whether or not they should have to wear a mask at the Live Oak Theater or not. But it is interesting that now, across the board, it doesn't matter what the musicians or the performers want. It's just a rule across the board that will be going into effect and starts today.
And that's at all Live Nation venues, not just the one here in Wilmington, of course. And, another story that's garnered national attention, Ray, has been this missing boyfriend of this young woman who was found dead in this park in Wyoming a while back. The guy drives cross-country in the van they were in 20 days. No one hears a peep from him. He goes on, seemed to look like he went on a camping trip with his family, his mom and dad. And then all of a sudden, as the body surfaces in Wyoming, this guy just disappears. And apparently, he's got some ties maybe to western North Carolina, and some think that he could be hiding out in the North Carolina mountains right now, being the boyfriend of the young woman named Gabby Petito.
Yeah, Brian Laundrie is his name. He, as he said, went back to Florida after this incident occurred. A lot of people were searching for him down in a national park down in the Florida area, thinking that he was there. But last week we got word that authorities in Watauga County and Avery County, which is in the Boone, Blowing Rock area, said that they had been getting some tips from over a half dozen people within a 48-hour period. Some people, and this of course is rumors, social media, say that he was very familiar with the Appalachian Trail, and that there may be a possibility that he could be back in North Carolina or headed back here to hide out. So authorities were asking hunters to please look at their cameras, for game, to see if they had any spottings of Brian Laundrie, or if they did, to certainly get in touch with law enforcement and try to, let them know where they were whenever they spotted something unusual.
Jeff Rivenbark with us, highlighting some of the news coming out of our area and around the rest of the country, moving out of another weekend. Jeff, with Good Morning Carolina, 5:30 each morning over on WWAY. You hear their broadcast here from 6 to 7 before we jump on, along with Donna Gregory and Ramel Carpenter. Jeff, it's a pleasure, as always. Thanks again.
Thanks, Joe. Have a great week. And
you do as well, and we look forward to catching up with you, maybe Donna, next Monday, as we do it each and every Monday morning just after 9:30. Highlighting our partnership over at WWAY. And again, big thanks to everyone over there that affords me the opportunity, when given the chance, every Friday night during the high school football season to cover some of the highlights from across the Cape Fear region. Well, as we move into our final segment of the show, of course, we take your calls at 910-299-7535. That's 910-299-7535. If you'd like to be a part of the show here until 10 o'clock.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina. Practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man. Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
It's about your life and your money. It's the Dave Ramsey Show.
If you hang out with people who make good money, you will start to make good money because you learn to think like they think. You learn to see the world like they see the world. If you hang out with people who are victims, oh, you can't get ahead. You come from our side of the tracks, you can't get ahead. You hang out with people who Eeyore is their spirit animal, yeah, you'll be a victim too. Every weekday at noon. Right here on the Big Talker, 106.7 FM.
All right, if you want to join us to round out the program here on this beautiful morning within the Cape Fear region, our call-in number is 910-299-7535 if you'd like to be a part of the show. Now, not to provide any sort of encouragement as to what you may want to call in and talk about. Well, on this 4th day of October 2021, Union Confederate generals, what occurred 250 years ago. I think there are, in some instances, ways in which we can intertwine the conversation today. But as far as the history lessons go, well, if you like to start a podcast to provide, your view on history and how it's been distorted in different ways, or laying out there, we have unique opportunities available at the Big Talker FM where we can actually put you on your own podcast, and then you have the opportunity to provide these sorts of lessons to those who want to engage in those sorts of conversations. And we can do it at a small fee for you as well. It will cost you almost nothing, just my time, and I come at an hourly rate to produce the show. there's some other things we need to do. If you'd like to add video to it, if you want to provide some other context to the conversation as far as maybe, documentary material or any sort of additional audio or video, we can do that for you through the podcast. Particularly when we're highlighting a specific topic here, then we like to stay sort of on topic or within the news of the day. And then we get callers every once in a while who could take us, back to the day. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think, there should be some, encouragement to understand history, learn from it, don't repeat some of the, things that have given a black eye to this country in one way, shape, or form. And then there are others who believe that, many who tell us and give us history are completely off base and wrong in the way, they deliver us this news, which is why we get the caller from time to time who wants to talk about Confederate and Union generals and, the history of this area. And, we're all ears and we give you the platform. It's just, to me, it's not appealing. But nonetheless, you obviously have time on your hands to engage in those sorts of discussions. And, this is why we welcome all viewpoints from all angles and never rudely just hang up on you. We'll give you a minute or even two to get your point across. Given the fact that many of us have been told to sit in a corner and keep our mouths shut for, the better part of the last 18 months, or you're going to, create a havoc on society. I get it. People want to speak up and speak out. Well, you've got an opportunity to do that in front of our New Hanover County Board of Commissioners a little later on this afternoon when they meet at 4 o'clock. Make your view heard on the community endowment and how important it's going to be to make sure we're keeping a close eye on the $1.2 billion in profits from the sale of our hospital. Tomorrow evening, the New Hanover County Board of Education will meet to make your thoughts heard towards our Board of Education members when it comes to, now having access to some $350 million, not the Board of Ed, but all these different stakeholders when it comes to community and school violence. We open up the coffers before we even develop any sort of plan as to, what needs to be done. Well, we know now that we have $350. How can we spend it? That's some of the news here locally as we get the week underway, as well as Pender County Schools going mask optional moving forward. Provides us an opportunity to, have our own little case study across the region as far as the approach being seen in Pender County and elsewhere. Only to know that story popped up from over the weekend that the U.S. overall not only mask mandates on adults, but the mask mandates that we continue to hamper our children with and, frankly, distort their minds in ways that we won't see the consequences until, very later on. And we're starting to see it from a behavioral standpoint with the rise in violence, not only in the streets, but also in our schools. Fight broke out on a school bus last week coming back from Noble Middle School where a bus driver had to pull over. The cops had to come. Kids were jumping out the back end of the emergency exit. Parents jumping on the bus, pulling their kids off. Complete mess. Had a handle on those rascals. I mean, no one knows sort of what played out as the news broke, Thursday. It started to garner some headlines Friday. Still, limited information as to what went on the bus. We know there's some social media footage of people all amped up and vulgarities being slung everywhere, which is why we're unable to play it over the air here. And then for those living on Gordon Road, off Gordon Road, come to find out late last week, there's a drive-by shooting around your house if you live near Acres Drive. Yeah, it was just a random Saturday afternoon around 4 o'clock. Gunshots rang out, and Sheriff's Office told WWAY, hey, no violence, no injuries reported. And that house, it's been shot up before, and it's something to do with the gangs, but nothing to see here. That's your local news all tied up in a bow for you as we round out our broadcast here this morning. Of course, nationally, how about that? Nancy Pelosi unable to garner the support to move infrastructure and the reconciliation bill. As she said, we need more time. That's after Grandpa Joe went up to Capitol Hill to try and persuade some of the holdouts. Shows how much influence he has over the lawmakers, his Democratic lawmakers in Washington, D.C. Tomorrow, U.S. Senator Tom Tillis joins the program, along with Representative David Rouser of North Carolina's 7th Congressional District. Looking forward to those conversations and your calls tomorrow morning, 7 until 10. Glad that we're back up and running today after the Spectrum fiber cable was cut early this morning. Took us offline by no fault of our own for about 2 hours. We'll be back better than ever tomorrow morning right here on the Big Talker FM.
Keeping Holden Beach informed. The Big Talker 106.